The arrest of 26-year-old Luigi Mangione at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, has set off a firestorm of reaction connected to the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Thompson was shot and killed on his way into an investors meeting in New York, and investigators say it was Mangione who traveled to New York, stayed in a hostel, then after stopping at Starbucks, shot the UnitedHealthcare CEO in cold blood. Then jumped on a bike, took a cab, and hopped on a bus out of New York City. After 6 days on the lam, he was spotted by a McDonald's employee in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Police investigated, and Mangione was arrested by a rookie police officer. Prosecutors in New York have charged him with murder, and tonight we'll take a look at the evidence they say they have that connects him to the murder. Then we'll look at public reaction to this shooting, as some in the world of social media are calling him a hero and raising money for his defense. And finally, what will life in jail be like for this 26-year-old Ivy Leaguer raised in a very wealthy family in Maryland? Will he survive? All this as we continue our in-depth coverage of the shooting death of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments as we continue our coverage of the biggest crime story right now in the nation. Of course, I'm talking about the case of the CEO, Brian Thompson, who was shot and killed on the streets of New York in cold blood, an assassination. Well, the man they've arrested, 26 years old, heading to Rikers. When he gets extradited from Pennsylvania, and it's going to happen. You know, he can fight it, but it's going to happen. May just run up your legal bill a little bit. When he goes from Pennsylvania, ends up in New York, chances are, because it happened in New York City, that he's going to be held in Rikers Island. And I want you to think about that for just a second, because you have to understand where this young man comes from, okay? Extreme wealth, like the 1% of the 1%, okay? Prestige, private schools, Ivy League. Then you look at him once he left the nest of his home and went out into the world, had a really good job and was living in San Francisco, one of the most expensive, I think maybe the most expensive city in the country, and then spending time in Hawaii, really expensive as well, in his beachfront co-op that he was in with a bunch of other folks who were able to work remotely. So that was his life. Beaches, cities, wealth. Now Rikers Island. What's that going to be like? We're going to talk about that tonight. Also, we have to remember that there was a manifesto that investigators said that they found on his person. And, you know, you look at it, there's also a to-do list as well. But in it, very specific information. In fact, mentioning UnitedHealthcare, and depending upon how you read it, really kind of reads like a confession to a certain extent. And you talk about a case with evidence, but it makes you think, what was this all about? Like, if you've got that in your pocket at the time you get arrested, is it there because you want the world to hear it? Are you making some grand statement here? Are you some sort of a social justice avenger who's trying to change the world? Or is there something else going on? I think that's what the trial is going to be about. Like, what was going on with Mangione? What was the deal with Luigi in the last 6 months before all this happened? Now, if you've been online, you know it. I know it. Everyone's talking about it, that there are some people out there calling him a hero. If you've been watching my coverage, I'm not in that bucket of people. But, you know, reading through it and trying to understand why he has this status, I think it's because of who the victim is. Because the victim represents health care, represents health insurance. And there's a specific story and narrative about the victim that is also happening online, very directly connected to him and what was happening at UnitedHealthcare. And they've made this guy out to be like the everyman, which is ironic, because the wealth that his family had was probably equal to what Brian Thompson was creating for his family. They're from the same place. They're both the 1% of the 1%ers, and one's taking another one out. But everyone else is interpreting him as a man of the people, which is interesting. We're going to talk about that tonight. But while some are calling him a hero, the state, or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania right now, but the state of New York, calling him a murderer. He's been charged with second-degree murder. Second-degree murder in New York is pretty much like first-degree murder in the rest of the country. It's just first degree has very specific circumstances in New York. This case doesn't qualify for that, but it is as serious as it gets in the state of New York. So they're calling him a murderer based upon all the evidence they had. So I wanted to start tonight by going through some of the evidence in this case that at least we believe investigators have, or they're saying that they have. So let's start with the weapon itself, because when he's arrested, he's found with the gun, or a gun that appears to be a ghost gun produced by a 3D printer. And the gun found on the suspect apparently matched shell casings found at the site of the shooting. Now, to what extent is this match at this point? I'm not sure if it's a full ballistic workup yet, or if it's just, okay, this kind of casing would be used for this kind of ammo, which is consistent with this gun. That may be what they're talking about now. But remember, there's something else about those casings that had deny, defend, and depose written on them with a marker, which again, you take that, you connect it to the manifesto, you connect it to the to-do list, all consistent with what he was doing and what he was talking about. The suspect was also found with a silencer or suppressor, and you look at the video and it's consistent with what you're seeing in the video. Yeah, the video might be a little bit grainy, but it's consistent with what you see as you see the end of that weapon is extended. So that's going to be a big part of this case, especially if and when they have a full ballistic match, and we'll be waiting to hear about that. But they do have some lab results connected to some fingerprints. Fingerprints, old school, folks. Lab results matched Luigi Mangione's prints to a water bottle and protein bar wrapper found near the scene of Thompson's killing outside of a Hilton hotel on December 4th. Remember, they were tracking his whereabouts that morning. There are surveillance cameras everywhere, including at the Starbucks, where the water bottle and the power bar, protein bar, was purchased. And of course, you've got surveillance video of the suspect as well. These are some of the first images we saw at the Starbucks. So as we begin to go through some of the evidence that prosecutors say they have, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, live in studio, criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Darrell Cohen. Also with us, criminal defense attorney and Emory University law professor Molly Palmer, and criminal defense attorney and law professor Meg Strickler. All right, great to see everyone. We're all back in black. Awesome. Let's start with the weapon. A lot of times in these cases, Darrell, it's like, well, they don't have a murder weapon. And I hear these defense attorneys. They didn't find a murder weapon. They found a murder weapon. It was on his person. It's a 3D printer, and my guess is at some point they'll be able to get a ballistic match.
Oh, I am convinced they will have a ballistic match. They've got fingerprints. They've got, better than the weapon, they've got audio and video. They've got a lot of video of what happened. We've seen it over and over again, and they may not have any evidence, but they've got him everywhere, and they've got him at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
With the gun?
Oh, yeah, by the way.
With the gun?
Yeah.
So, Molly, is there some sort of defense to fingerprints these days? Is that now junk science?
Well, I mean, there are plenty of aspects of forensics that can be contested by the defense. And I think, you know, to your point earlier, I think at this juncture, it is too soon to say that it's an absolute categorical match. I think what we're hearing is that these were 9mm shell casings, and the ghost gun also fired 9mm bullets. And so how many guns, how many, firearms out there fit that Description, plenty, you know, hundreds of thousands. And so we're going to have to wait for the full workup, certainly. But beyond that, yes, fingerprint science has some, you know, details and nuances to it that a defense attorney can attack. Is it a partial print? You know, initially there was some discussion that there were no fingerprints at all that could be recovered. And certainly if you have a protein bar wrapper and some, you know, water bottle, if he's the person at the hostel, does that mean he's the shooter? Could these have been discarded by the person at the hostel, and is the person at the hostel the shooter? You know, it's not enough, I think, to paint the full picture just yet.
But the fingerprint at the water bottle right near the scene at least puts him in Manhattan.
Correct.
Right?
Him and everybody else.
Mr. Hawaii,
Yes.
Mr. San Francisco, puts him in Manhattan. Let's talk about some more of the evidence here. And I wanted to read a quote from the papers that were on his person, the so-called Mangione manifesto, right? To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. That's just a great line. Like, that's so funny. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. I do apologize for any strife or trauma, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. The manifesto also contained a to-do list that had a much more direct confession. So this is direct evidence, right?
Yes.
If it's interpreted as a confession. This isn't going to be one of those circumstantial cases. It'll be circumstantial in part, like fingerprints, etc., but direct in that he is basically owning up to it with the manifesto, which was in his pocket.
He's the kind of defendant who's going to make his lawyer say, look, I want to testify. When trial happens 5 years from now, he's going to be the guy who says, I want to testify. And God bless us if that happens, because he wants to talk. He wants to say, yes, that was me, I did it. He's not doing it right now. He's not talking in jail. But
I don't
how
think
do you
he
know
wanted
he's
to
not?
get caught, though.
Yes, he did. Yes, he
Plenty of
did.
people
He
think he
made
did.
so many mistakes
Yes, he
that
did.
were not mistakes. I think he left a clear trail.
Yes.
If he didn't want to be caught, those 3 words would not have been on the shell casings. If he didn't want to be caught, he would have disappeared.
And he was only in PA. He didn't go very far.
Right, but do you get a sense, though, like he's super bright and he's been successful at everything he does? So do you think there was a level of arrogance?
No
that
question.
I could do this, I could figure out how to do this and get away. I'll keep my mask on. I mean, the only time he took that mask down was for a brief moment to flirt with the hostess or the clerk at the hostel. That's it. Other than that, he's eating with that mask on.
Right, and so you would think, right, to follow that to its logical conclusion, you would think somebody so intelligent and so arrogant would not hold on to the weapon, nor the manifesto, which reads as a confession, right? Perhaps don't carry that with you. And I think there are plenty of people out there that believe that this is some sort of like frame up. And so therefore the police are saying we caught him with this, when in fact somebody of that level of intelligence wouldn't be, you know, going from one state to another carrying it with them, right?
But I think the arrogance outweighs the intelligence. I think he believes he's smarter than everyone else, and I'm not going to get caught.
I don't know what he thought. I don't know that any of us can figure out what he thought, but what we know is what we saw, and what we know is what has been done. And what we know is that he was incredibly arrogant, and I think you're right. He thought, I'm better than you are, I'm smarter than you are, I've always been that way, I'm entitled, I've been privileged.
But
Well,
see, I
his
disagree.
privileges are done.
Go get him a psych eval. There could be like schizophrenia or something going on here, where he's saying, calling these people parasites. As you said in the opening, his issues did not measure up with what he's arguing about. They don't equal each other. He wasn't facing any health insurance issues.
I don't
period.
think there was health insurance issues. I mean, incredible wealth.
Exactly.
He had a job. He had a surgery that didn't go well.
Right.
It went really bad. He was in extreme pain. So, yeah, I think that's where his defense goes. I don't think he can fight this evidence.
Correct.
Let's take a look at some more, because in Pennsylvania he's got some charges there in the Commonwealth: forgery, tampering with records of identification, false identification of law enforcement, and possessing instruments of a crime. But what's the false identification to law enforcement is the key to this whole thing, because take a look at this, courtesy of NBC News. This is Luigi's fake New Jersey ID, referring to himself as Mark Rosario. That's what was used at the hostel. That's what was given to the Altoona police. That's a problem.
It's a
right?
small felony as compared to murder, though.
It's a small felony, but it connects him. It's putting him in the hostel. That ID puts him at the hostel unmasked.
But you already have his protein bar and the wrapper at the
That's at Starbucks.
This is more. This is a highway. It's a one-way highway, not two ways. It's one way, and every time he goes down that highway, he's leaving another piece of evidence to say it's my manifesto. And by the way, this was not a Miranda warning. He was not questioned about this manifesto. He gave it up, and that's a big difference. But on the other hand, I don't think in the end it's going to matter. The evidence is going to be so overwhelming, it's going to depend. And he may very well have a psych evaluation, but it's not going to work.
My guess is with this type of evidence, we're going to see pre-trial a lot of suppression motions, right?
Certainly.
Trying to keep the evidence away from the jury.
I mean, I want to see the chain of custody for the alleged fingerprint evidence. I mean, I think any good lawyer is going to go through and say, okay, I hear what you have. Show me how it's been preserved. I need all the reports. Let's go through the details. But I think separate from all of that, and what's really interesting about this case, especially with a jury being picked in Manhattan, is that you have a very serious issue, no matter how overwhelming the evidence may be, of potential jury nullification. You have the potential of jurors saying, you know what, I think all of this is a conspiracy, and I want to acquit him no matter what. And so it's fascinating in that we
But you can't argue that, right?
You can't argue it, but it's certainly something that happens.
Right, and that'll come down to jury selection, which will be New Yorkers. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see what New Yorkers think about this. Obviously, he's got some level of support, but at the end of the day, you're watching him here.
He's volatile.
Yeah,
Look at that.
I think that's really the story. Like, he needs to be evaluated, and I think you got to figure out where he was mentally at the time all this is going on. He's only 26, so if it's something less than second-degree murder, he can, you know, get out when he's like, I don't know, maybe my age.
42. Wow. And I agree with Molly. I think there are going to be one or more jurors who may want to praise him but not say that and give him the jury nullification. But there's no way, in my view, that he'll have more than one or two, if that many, unless this ends up in a plea at some point.
Yeah, I could see this being a plea, but then also him getting a lot of mental health treatment. He's still going to get something like life in prison. But
I don't know. They're
parole.
pretty tough on crime in New York
He'll
because if you jump in the subway to try to save your fellow passengers, right? They're going to prosecute you. They clearly are going to prosecute a cold-blooded murder.
I don't know.
I would think.
I would think they should.
Think tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about that online support that has been generated for this defendant, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, big news in the mysterious disappearance of 30-year-old Hannah Kobayashi, a young woman who missed a connecting flight in L.A., then vanished. Tonight, she has been located, and we investigate what happened.
Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
He is the boogeyman.
Lori Daybell.
She said, I will have you destroyed.
She's got another murder trial coming up.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer. What was in daily prizes?
Some attention in this case, especially online, has been deeply disturbing, as some have looked to celebrate instead of condemning this killer. Brian Thompson was a father to two. He was a husband, and he was a friend to many. And yes, he was the CEO of a health insurance company. In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint.
That's the governor of Pennsylvania talking about what is happening online, which is a celebration of the murder of Brian Thompson, a father, a husband, and the CEO of UnitedHealthcare. Celebrating it. Not just not mourning it, which, okay, no. actually celebrating his murder. Now, during a debate on Piers Morgan Uncensored, posted on YouTube, Taylor Lorenz, who's a journalist or was a journalist, talked about the shooting of CEO Brian Thompson. Take a look.
You know, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, you know, because it feels like...
Serious?
I mean...
Joy at a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that being murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
Now that basically captures the sentiment that is happening on social media. She said it out loud. Now Taylor Lorenz later retracted the comment, saying it was the wrong word. But you could, I mean, even if she chose a different word than joy, to even have that on your mind when talking about this murder, very unusual, very unusual. Let's bring back in our think tank Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Molly Palmer. How about that use of the word joy, Meg? She actually said she is feeling joy. And it's shared.
I'm incredulous. I've been seeing the comments online, and I think that you put it really well. This has exemplified an issue in the United States about our health care and how it basically sucks. I mean, that's true. But what is also true, it is not okay to gun down somebody and call murder, just like that governor just said. It is never okay. If you disagree with somebody, just shoot them. And I think that needs to be said straight on, period, 100% of the time. You can have discourse, and that's what Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, all the things online we're hearing is discourse, and it's bringing up good discussions about the problems that we have in our country in healthcare. And it is true, we have them. But it was not okay to do what happened, what did what here. Say joy is reprehensible.
Do you think that he knew that he was taking up some cause here? Do you think this is the impact that he wanted to create through this shooting, if in fact he's the one that did it?
He did it, in my view, based on the evidence that I've seen, unlike his lawyer who's not seen it.
Right, but I work at Court TV, I have to say that.
I understand that. I don't. I'm just a guest. But having said that, whether he meant to do it or not, it is so sad to me and so disappointing that we have people that are condoning a cold-blooded murder. I can disagree, you can disagree, Molly and I and Meg can disagree, but that's our right. Because we may be right in our own mind doesn't mean that we're right. But if we're wrong, we shouldn't be shot and killed because we have the wrong opinion. This is just so disappointing, and I think it's sort of as a result of social media that people have their intentions recorded before they even know what they are.
I mean, you know, we have a long history as human beings of loving anti-heroes, right? And I think what happened here, especially with kind of a younger segment of the population, and certainly those who have some sort of like intimate experience as it relates to the healthcare industry, is that, you know, he, once identified and once we saw how he looked and his background and everything, there was this exalting of somebody who typically would not be if they committed the same type of crime. I think it's just a number of circumstances that come into play here. Part of it's his physicality. Part of it is the fact that he's smart and he's educated. But a lot of it is that people simply sometimes like the Dark Knight. You know, that's always been part of our lore and our culture. It's just, it's fascinating when it comes down to this cold-blooded murder in New York City, right?
Do you think it's more about him, who he is, or who the victim
It's both. And let me tell you, when it comes to trial and jury nullification and actually litigating a case, both of those matter. Both of those can like take a case that seems unwinnable and shift it right before your very eyes. You can have an unlikable victim, you can have a likable defendant, and those things turn the tables more so than evidence sometimes in some cases, especially one like this.
Let's take a look at this, because this is also happening on Give, Send, Go, which is a place where you can raise money. There's been a donation fund set up earlier today. It was up to $35,000 for his legal defense of this guy. I wonder if the people donating their money realize the wealth of the family is
Right.
the top 1% of 1%. He doesn't need the money, but people are giving it.
Give
It
the
may
money to
not be the
people who
money
need
that
it.
so much that he needs. He needs the adulation. And the money is translating to adulation. It's disgusting.
We should
but
do a
it is.
GoFundMe for the people who didn't get their health insurance claims paid. Do that. If the United States, the people out there want to help, do the people who have bills that are crippling them because they couldn't afford it, but they need the treatment to stay alive.
And this is Give, Send, Go is the same place where the other case in New York, where we have the not guilty verdict for Daniel Penny, the subway chokehold case. On his Give, Send, Go, he raised about $3.3 million. Do you think Luigi is going to get those type of numbers, that type of support as well? We're early on in this.
I think it depends on whether or not there's one or two very wealthy benefactors that want him to do it. Otherwise, I don't see this as going very far. But to be very honest, I didn't see this backlash happening either.
Yeah, okay. Now, you ready for a tweet? We got a couple of posts here. We begin with this one from Wild Geeters. Wild Geeters. All jokes aside, it's really bleeped up to see so many people on here celebrating murder. No one here is the judge of who deserves to live or die. That's the job of the AI algorithm the insurance company designed to maximize profits on your health.
Amen.
4.5 million views on that one.
It's true.
And that's what they keep coming back to. Like the specific story of Brian Thompson as the CEO of UnitedHealthcare is they were being sued because of this new AI program that was denying claims, and 90% of them that were denied should not have been denied.
Correct. Correct. And it'll come out. There'll be much more coming out about what UnitedHealthcare is doing, and that was already happening.
Does that end up in the trial?
Oh, it's thematically.
In
thematically.
some ways,
Yeah.
in some ways.
Does he have to
it'll-
testify for it to come in? Or
No.
can-
No,
Not at all.
You can argue it. I mean, certainly you can argue it in closing. It's the kind of thing. I mean, this
You
is
can't
what's-
put on a witness who's going to tell you
No.
about UnitedHealthcare
That
being
will-
sued.
No, you can, closing arguments are actually pretty loose, and you can say a lot of things, and if somebody objects, whatever, that bell has been rung, and
still
it is
been
what it
said.
is. But I do think, it's interesting because all of these other counter narratives that have nothing to do with the murder continue to be what everyone thinks about first and foremost. It's not Brian Thompson as a victim and his family and the loss of those who knew and loved him. Rather, it's like this AI bot that UnitedHealthcare is using, or it's somebody's personal experience, right? So when you have something that overshadows the actual story that's going to be before a jury, yes, you want to pull from that all the time if you're the defense.
And at some point, this may actually bring out some good, because it will have good, logical defenses and exposures about what's going on in the healthcare industry, and maybe we can have good conversations that will make it better. It can't be a lot worse, but it can certainly be a lot better.
All right, this political cartoon that was tweeted out or X'd out, I mean, really, I think captures a lot of the sentiment. And you take a look, we put it up. On the top, murder, you see the assassin and someone who looks like the CEO. Then you look beneath it, the CEO sitting behind the desk saying denied with a pile of money, and then someone who's dead, whose life-saving meds claim is denied. And people are equating the CEO as a mass killer versus he who only killed one. I'm seeing a lot of that as well.
One can be the same and one can be the same. They both are true. That's what we keep saying. They're both true. He shot and killed Brian Thompson in cold blood. That's second-degree murder, and he's going to be convicted of it. But the same thing is true that UnitedHealthcare is making way too much money for what they do. Simple.
I think what's interesting is that typically we don't see in a murder case, like if somebody who's a victim was a murderer or has some complicity as it relates to killing, that's not usually something that comes into play when we think about the culpability of the accused, right? You're still going to be guilty of murder if you kill somebody who's a murderer, right? Unless it's like a unique self-defense situation. But here, it's almost as if it's negated the act itself.
That's what people are looking at this as justifiable homicide, but under the law, it's not even close.
Exactly.
Not even close.
Logic and what's right, it's not even close.
Take a look at this one that's going on with Tony Soprano, New Jersey guy, right? And the quote is, and in this house, Luigi Mangione is a hero. End of story. 4.5 million on that. The one on the next one I want you to see, this is another one that's surprising me, where the anger is going. And this is introducing the McSnitchin. And they've got a rat on a bun, tasty, flavorful treat. And that is being, and of course they're referencing that it was a McDonald's employee who called this in, who called in a wanted murderer or alleged murderer who was in the McDonald's. And that's being backed up with tons of bad Yelp reviews for the Altoona McDonald's, and a lot of them saying that there's rats there.
Well,
and the obvious thing.
Nobody likes a snitch, never has.
But not a snitch. He saw what he needed to see. He reported it to the authorities as he should have, and he should be hailed as a hero.
Hopefully he got the award.
They're also going after the police. Issues. They're also going after the Altoona police out there.
But see, the McDonald's person who's like, hey, I have this gentleman in my restaurant. I'm nervous and I'm scared. Because this guy, we know he's a couple fries short of a Happy Meal. He just shot someone in cold blood.
And the reason he was spotted, he was acting very suspicious.
Yes.
He was very sketchy.
Which is indicative of his behavior that we've seen.
When we saw him walking into court, same way, kind of a little unhinged, to say the least. At one point, I think he was trying to get into one of the local motels and couldn't pay for it, or they were booked and he had to try somewhere else. I mean, there was a level of desperation that was going on there. And one more thing that is happening with some of the memes, these are the Luigi Mangione alibi memes, where people are taking like pictures of themselves and then putting Luigi with them and saying, yeah, I was in so-and-so place at the time of the murder. And those are everywhere as well. Let's just kind of wrap this all up, right? These are all potential jurors to some extent, right? The public is always the potential juror. I'm wondering what the divide is, right? Because obviously these people are much, online or much more prolific than someone who might think, oh, he's a killer, I'm not going to spend time writing about him. But what do you think the split is, and what the split will be in the jury pool?
I think that the divide is that most of the people are good. There's a country song. Most of the people are good, and they're going to KYD BMS. They're going to keep their damn big mouth shut, and if they are on the jury, they will vote as a juror. I don't think the divide is going to be as it seems here.
Agreed.
The few make the most noise.
Well, I mean, it's Manhattan, right? It's a very diverse area, unless there's a change of venue. But I think what this comes down to is not so much the divide or the proportion, it's how do you know? Because you can't ask in voir dire. You can't say, are you one of those people posting the memes?
You got to profile him, right?
Yeah.
Meg Strickler, Molly Palmer, Daryl Cohen, thank you so much. When we come back, what will life be like at Rikers Island, in jail, potentially in prison for Luigi Mangione? We'll get the inside scoop next.
Following breaking news out of New York City as police are searching for a gunman.
He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back.
The person has been taken into custody in Altoona, Pennsylvania, in connection to the CEO shooting.
We must do more on the federal level to clamp down on the availability of ghost guns.
It feels good to get a guy like that off the street.
I want to give you a little background about Luigi Mangione. Like, You saw there, super smart, right? He's an engineer with an advanced degree from the University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League education there. A lot of wealth in his family. His grandfather built an amazing amount of generational wealth. They own resorts, country clubs, a chain of assisted living facilities. He went to private school. Take a look just at his tuition at private school before he even gets to the University of Pennsylvania. $20,000 a year, $26,000 for kindergarten, 5th grade $34,000, 8th grade $35,000, high school $37,000. Elite. And one of his classmates from this very elite prep school referred to him as rich for this school. So again, a very nice life he was living. And then when he went to work, had a good job working remotely, lived beachfront in Hawaii when he wasn't living in San Francisco. So he seemingly will be headed off to Rikers when he's extradited back to New York City, accused of this murder. So how's he gonna do? Will he survive? Joining me, prison consultant and director and founder of Wall Street Consultants and the author of the book, Lies My Lawyer Told Me, Larry Levine. Larry, great to have you back. Always appreciate your insight. With this type of background that this young man has, and I'm sure you've probably consulted with people with this background, but a little bit older. He's 26, super good looking, fit, but he also, one more fact, incredible back pain. Had a failed back surgery on his spine. He's got real pain. How is he gonna make do if they put him in Rikers or somewhere else?
They're putting him in a medical unit. Remember, Rikers opened in 1932. So it's a really, really old jail. They've got about 6,000.
We've got some problem with your audio. Let's just give it a second. Are we changing anything? Can we change anything to see if we can fix that audio? It was definitely a little off. Let's give it one more shot. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay, so Rikers opened in 19...
Yeah, it's not working. Oh, let's see if we get Larry on the phone. Let's get Larry on the phone real quick. Got my think tank still with me. They're always with me.
We're thinking about it.
What do you think? 26 at Rikers?
I mean, Rikers is hard for everybody, but it's interesting. Those who actually do well in a prison setting, it doesn't have to do with wealth or poverty. I think the back pain though that you referenced is something that's very significant.
It's gonna kill him because
medical
those mattresses
care
are like this big too.
Yeah, that I think is what makes.
So
it
is that going to be
incredibly
part of the game to try to get put in a special unit?
Absolutely.
Do they do that?
In a mental health unit, I can see it happening.
It's a mattress this thick.
Mental health unit, you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he'll be in the medical wing for sure.
Is that going to be part of the defense?
Clearly.
Like a big part of the defense is where he is physically housed.
Maybe the defense and maybe part of a mitigation sort of defense.
Minimize the time in prison, but no matter what, even the medical wing is still prison. So it's not going to be comfortable. Starbucks is not delivered by Uber Eats. Like, he has a change in lifestyle that I don't think he's going to adapt to very well.
I mean, certainly as a defense lawyer, you litigate pre-trial all the time your client's location and whether or not it's appropriate or whether it's in contravention to the 8th Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. And so you can say, you know, the medical care is insufficient, it's a constitutional issue, and bring that in front of a judge. Now,
I think we've got Larry on the phone. Larry Levine, we can hear you, I think.
I hope so. Anyway, the prison was built, or the jail was built in 1932, so it's an old place. It's got an inmate population of about 6,000 people. But the medical unit has about 3,000 people. So it has the capability to care for his needs. And there's a special psych unit there. Obviously, this guy's cuckoo. He's not in his right mind. He wouldn't have whacked the insurance guy, allegedly. So they'll probably send him into the medical unit and then into the psych ward. But he's going to be like a folk hero in there among the inmates. I've got inmates that call me from jails and prisons all the time, and over the last few, they have contraband cell phones. They're everywhere. There's inmates out there that are actually using their contraband smartphones to send money to his, I don't know, social media account to gather money from their contraband Venmo accounts. So I think that he'll get along just fine. But, you know, Rikers is old, it's dirty. What he really, really needs to hope is that the feds pick this case up quick, because he'll head over to MDC New York, where Puff Daddy's at. And MDC New York will be like a hotel compared to Rikers Island. I mean, at Christmas time on Rikers, they're serving Gainsburgers and donkey dongs, is what they say. At MDC, he'll at least get some type of semi-decent holiday meal. He'll probably get better medical care. I don't think he'll be at Rikers all that long, because the feds will exercise something called pendant jurisdiction, and they'll end up picking up the case as far as that goes. I had an interesting thing happen. I posted that I was going to be on your show on my Facebook account.
Right.
And I was on Ashley Banfield last night talking about the same thing. I've been on your shows several times. I got blocked because I mentioned Luigi. So social media is very, very well aware of this.
Larry Levine, we're out of time, but thank you so much. We will speak again. Big thanks to my think tank. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates what happened to Hannah Kobayashi. She missed a connecting flight in L.A., then disappeared. And now tonight, huge breaking news from her family. Hannah has been found, and we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan investigates. Coming up next, only on Court TV. This week.
Join us each morning to get trial ready for the day's proceedings. Plus, a closer look at true crime cases with a voice for victims.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. And what do we have? Returned and charged. Who is that? This is the man who faked his own death with that overturned kayak in Wisconsin. Ryan Borgward is his name. He faked his drowning death in August, but returned. He went overseas to the country of Georgia, returned on his own, is put into custody, and was charged with 1 count of obstructing an officer. Take a look as he's entering his not guilty plea to that charge.
If you do not qualify for a public defender, you can ask this court to appoint one for you. Do you understand those options?
I do. I called this morning and I found out that I would have to pay, so I can't pay. I don't have money, so I'll defend myself.
Well, you do have the right to an attorney. You can ask this court to appoint one for you. You can have an attorney. You always have the right to an attorney. The court will determine the defendant stands mute, knowledge, or a not guilty plea on your behalf.
Yeah, prosecutors were going after him, wanted no contact with his family, a gag order, and wanted him to surrender his passport. Judge denied all of it. Let's take a listen to the sheriff after Borgward returned and was placed in custody.
Is he cooperating with you guys? Have you been able to speak with him in person?
He's cooperated with us. He came back to the United States.
Do you know if he's had any contact with his wife and kids since the last time we spoke here last month?
That I can't release.
What was it in those conversations with Mr. Borgward that made him change his mind?
That's going to be up to him someday, but we're not going to release that. But it was one thing that worked in our favor. We brought a dad back on his own accord.
And obviously, we'll keep an eye on that case. In the meantime, I need you to put your eyes on the screen right now as we have a missing child who needs your help. This is Arthur de Oliveira, 14 years old, missing from Burlington, Massachusetts since December 9th. Take a look at his face. If you see Arthur, pick up the phone, make the call, make a difference. 911. 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Burlington Police Department in Massachusetts. Let's get him to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. Another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.